Oh. Hello, welcome to this week's Muse. The weather here in Manchester is bright, and it's not bad actually. It's got a little nip in the air, but it's warm because the sun's out. We had a bit of snow last week, but that only lasted a few hours, and it was gone. Right, the Muse. So what's been going on with me? Well, the main thing I've been up to is, from a hobby point of view, is the Our Glorious Leader project on my Wargaming Live. But for me, it's running in with my big build stuff. I did a little bit of a video about it, so let's go and have a look at this quick video. Run VT. By way of a quick little update, I've almost finished these now. I'm just doing the highlighting and final bits and bobs on them, and glazing and stuff. And this is all part of the Our Glorious Leader thing on my Wargaming Live, but it also forms part of my big build. I should be moving on to some of the standard bearer type dudes next. I'm only doing them 5 at a time because I'm only doing a little bit a week on them at the moment because I've got work and stuff, and Yerp, and also there's I was doing these last week. These finished now. Well, I say finished. I just gloss varnished them, and now I'm going to do all the shields in one go. So then I'll put the shields on and mat them down. Right, back to the Muse. So there you go. That's what I'm up to with that. There'll be links appearing up there for whatever the project. They might have already been. I don't know because I haven't edited the video yet. But once I edit the video, then I presume that I'll put them in. So there you go. That's that. Right. Next thing. I mentioned last week about doing my Yerp. Just brief thing about Yerp. Yerp is an imaginations world, and I'm building 2 versions of it. I've been doing it for a while. One of the things is I just like messing around with maps and using Photoshop and campaign cartographer and stuff like that. But there's 2 versions. There's a horse and musket version, and there's a ancients version. At the moment, I'm just working on some of the ancient stuff, but I'm redoing my maps because I'm not happy with them. And, the templates for some of the regional maps. So without further ado, I did a little bit of video about that as well. So let's go and look at that then. Once again, Run VT. I don't know how well this will come out because I'm not doing a screen capture, but this is sort of old version of a Yerp local area. If I put the grids on, so this is like a local hex coordinate. So this is in this version, these are about 10 miles across. These hexes here, the little hexes in the middle. So that would make this 100 miles from that side to that side. I think 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So that's 100 miles. But what I've done in the next version is I've said that these hexes here are actually 15 miles because it works better with time. So to get from the centre of that hex to the centre of that hex and to the centre of that hex, so that's 1 day, that's 2 days marching. These are only tactical maps, they're not actual detail. But the reason why I'm redoing them is I'm not happy with the icons. So I'm going to be redoing all the icons for them. I'm going to make some brushes in Photoshop and do them. The other thing I've been messing about with as well over the weekend, well for quite a while now, is I reinstalled this Mac, and one of the problems with it was I gave away my Windows computer to somebody. So now I only have a really old Windows computer. It still runs Windows 10, but it's a bit sluggish. And I want to reinstall this and the whole system on it. So I'm currently in the process of putting a virtual machine on and installing Windows 10 onto my Mac. I know I could use Boot Camp, but I like to be able to. I want to run. In the past, I run the Windows and the Mac using what's the name, VNC, so I can actually have Windows on the Mac but it's a bit of a pain on the laptop I've got. So if I put it in a virtual machine, I should have the same functionality. And I can share the disk drive, so it's basically just like a folder on the Mac, so I can work. Anyway, that's what I want to with Europe. Like I say, I'm redoing all the maps. Actually, I think I showed you last week the regions that I was doing, and I was sort of reworking on the movement of things. So anyway, I'll just better switch that back off. So yeah, that's the Europe update. While we're on the subject of Europe, Graham Collin asked, he says, out of curiosity, he said, this world you're building, is it a wholly human world, or does it have roots in fantasy and include other races, etc., or classic races? Well, for me, it's just a human world. It's a historical world based on historical things that are not true. So, in other words, the empires and the countries and the states and all that sort of stuff never really existed. Only in as much that there is an analogue to, for example, in the Horse and Musket, is the is Europe at the 17th and 18th century, at the cusp. So basically, just before the French Revolution through to the 1820s, that sort of period. It's not in any way, shape, or form. There's no fantasy in it apart from the fact that it's made up. So there you go. And lots of little states. Funnily enough, those states sort of do echo quite strongly places like Prussia and Saxony and France and Britain and whatnot, all the major players. So there is that. And then the Ancients one sort of is anything that I like. So we've got Vikings, we've got crusading Normans, Romans, the Gallic peoples, Celts, Germans. Who else have we got? We've got the Arab nations. There's some Japanese and Chinese. Do you know what I mean? It's just whatever floats my boat at the time. And all these little countries exist, and they all have little skirmishes and stuff. So it's fantasy in that respect, but there's no orcs or goblins or dwarves or anything like that. Could be, because it's not been explored yet, and it's a big world, and there are big seas all over the place. So who knows what could be lurking on another continent? No idea. But that's for the future. But no, it isn't. It isn't based on fantasy at all. There's plenty of fantasy worlds around, but the world itself is fantasy in that respect. It's made up. Right. So there you go. Well, that answers your question, Graham. Well, we're on questions then, and this all ties in with the Yerp sort of stuff and everything. And there's two questions here, one from British Legion and one from Simon Bond, that sort of like follow on naturally to each other. So we'll deal with the Legions first. He says, what size games do you prefer to play? Large, grand tabletop battles that can last a day or so, or small skirmish game that would last an hour or so? Well, I like big battles, but I don't have time for big battles. I used to. I mean, we used to have some great games when I lived in Huddersfield. Some brilliant games that did last all day or a couple of days, and were great fun. But that was all like epic 40,000 as it became, and Warhammer Fantasy Battle and that sort of stuff. They were great games. They were fun. But I don't really have time for them now. I don't play that much anymore. I mean, it all depends if my son's coming across. And then if my son's coming across, then it'll be 40k. And they only last about 3 or 4 hours, 40k game. So, but I haven't played 40k for a while. Not since, I don't know, I'd say a good 6 months ago was the last game we had with him. Anyway, so there you go. That's that. But I do like these quick play games, like DBM, DBA, not DBM, DBA, and I've just bought actually this week a game called Pocket Battles, which is a quick play small game. I bought the Romans versus Celts version of it. It looks really cool. Basically, it's just cards and stuff, and you put them on. It's a bit like you just move the cards up and you do dice rolling. They look quite quick. I quite enjoy that. One of the reasons I've gone for that is the same reason why I've got Command and Colours Ancients. It's all related to Europe. Now I need to find ways of fast resolutions to small conflicts, so I'm always looking for little rule sets like that I can adapt and build into the system, so we can do all the campaigning stuff and then resolve battles rather than just having a roll of the dice and saying they won. You know what I mean? If I can do a quick 10-minute, 15-minute battle to decide who won and who lost a particular engagement, minor engagements these are, I'm not doing massive things, but that would be cool. So I'm looking at that. So it's about time and economy, I suppose. That's why I guess there are lots of different games, aren't there? Because people have lots of different sets of times. But I do like the grand battles. I mean, I would like one day to play in a 3-day or 4-day Napoleonic battle somewhere. I think that'd be brilliant. But at the moment, I just don't have the time. Anyway, Simon says, do you like the in-depth style of historical gaming, i.e. General de Brigade, etc., or the new fast play style of gaming like Black Powder? Well, I've only ever read the rules for Black Powder and General de Brigade from the point of view of that. I haven't actually. I've had a game of Black Powder in solo format with my. I don't know whether you ever saw my game pieces, but I made tokens, so I didn't have to use figures. It's a bit like me DBA markers that I did. Just to work out the rules, it's just easy sometimes just to put troop types on and base it all up so you can see what you're doing. I did like that because it's basically like an evolved Warhammer in a lot of respects, or Warhammer Ancients, really, isn't it, or whatever historical games. It's quite nice. It's a fast game. I like the fast game. I like that fast game. I can't answer for General de Brigade because I never played it, or to the extent of actually getting stuff out on the table and rolling dice, looking at tables and stuff. I've never done that. I don't like having to constantly refer to tables. The simpler the better for me. When you spend an entire... It used to be like that when we used to play stuff like Road Trader years ago. It was constantly... And the old Warhammer systems, well, Warhammer in general, it's just matrix after matrix, and you spend like a good 70% of your time looking at a table. And then there'll always be one person that knows the tables off by heart, and you do tend to believe what they say, and sometimes they could be pulling your chain. But anyway, there you go. I like the fast play idea because I think I like to be rolling dice and moving little men about. That's what I like to do. Quick pace, so as it sort of moves along rather than having to keep on stopping and looking at bloody tables and stuff. It drives me insane. So that answers your question. There you go. Now, Ian, the Diomede. He says all warfare is brutal, but given the choice, do you prefer to have fought as a foot soldier in ancient times, dark ages, musket and shot, or the 2 world wars? Your choice would probably the same as mine. None of them are true, but you have to pick an age and if you wish, a particular army. It's a tough question, that, really, because like he says, I wouldn't particularly want to to be involved in any conflict. Like him, my first choice was the Navy. It always seems safer because you can sit on a boat miles away from anywhere. But then again, if you get sunk. But my naval career was very short-lived. I didn't actually get through selection because of medical reasons, which meant that I couldn't do any of the services, so I was mildly pissed off. But anyway, I don't know, to be honest. Seriously, it's a very, very hard question. You see, you're tempted with like ancients and Dark Age and musket stuff because the attrition rates weren't quite as high, although the wounding rates were quite higher and you died of your wounds. The World Wars, definitely not the First World War. That was an horrendous war, complete waste of life needlessly, as is any war. But I think probably I would have, if I had to have been involved in anything, it would be moderner the better. So it would be the Second World War. Yeah. So yeah, it'd have to be. The reasons would be quite simple. I think your survivability in a modern war is better overall because you're wounded and your medical treatment is a lot better. You got more chances of surviving if you get wounded. Obviously, you get killed, don't you? But I think that I'd much prefer, if I had to have been in the Second World War. And I think I'd probably have liked to have been in something like the artillery, if it had to be, because at least then you knew you were well away from any real sort of head-on conflict. Because at the end of the day, like every other person, I don't want to be a hero. I just want to get through and get home, I suppose. Which is the same view of all the conscripts and volunteers, I would have thought. So yeah, that's my choice. I just like being alive. Okay, all right. Last question for this week is from Malk D. He says, "Can you recommend a publication for somebody fairly new to modelling, painting, collecting historical, i.e., not historical, not gaming or fantasy?" I don't know whether he means not war game. Doesn't want to play games, just painting and collecting. I think there are a couple of good ones. A good book if because I don't fully understand the end of the question. I'll say this is a good book if you want to get into wargaming and miniature painting and stuff. That's a brilliant book. It's by Henry Hyde. It's called Wargaming Compendium, and Henry is the editor on the editor of Battle Games. I can't remember what the magazine's called. Is it Miniature Wargaming and Battle Games nowadays? Something like that. But that's quite good. But if it's more to do with the historical side of stuff, the two publications. One's called was it War Games, Soldiers and Strategy, and you can get that at most things. I think it's, I don't know whether it's bi-monthly or monthly. I'm not too certain, but that is more pointed at, like, it gives you it'll focus on something for a month or for a magazine for a whole publication, and it'll talk about the war game side, but then the collecting and painting and all that sort of stuff, and the military and the armies and the, do you know what I mean, the historical background. So it's a bit more sort of in depth. And they also publish another magazine called, I think it's called, is it Ancient Battles? I can't remember what it's actually called, but if you find War Game Soldiers and Strategy, have a look in that, and then you'll see their other publication, and it's I think it's called something like Ancient Battles or something like that. And it's not necessarily just ancient, but the once again that'll focus on a period. Like I got a few of those. They're quite difficult to get. Yeah, I think I don't see them in W.H. Smiths very often. But it's a brilliant, absolutely superb magazine. I'm not sure. I think that comes out every 2 months as well, maybe even every 3 months. But no, if you're into painting and stuff, those are really good, because all the other sort of magazines and journals and publications deal more with gaming. But those are the two that are more sort of like painting and historical and background wise. But without knowing any particular thing other than, to a period, you can't really recommend anything, because there's so many publications. Anyway, so I'm sure, Mal, if you go on more at My Wargaming Life or in the comments here, people will put in pearls of wisdom if you just be a bit more specific. That's all right. Okay, that sort of ends the Muse for this week. I suppose I'll have to get on now and do some work. All right, well, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you later. Bye.